Good evening, and welcome to Santa Fe Channel 10 News. I'm your host, Thomas Hinkensmith. Today we are going to cover a strange story, one about obscure MS-DOS games and their relevant reviewers. We have Rex Gessler on the scene to talk to us about it. Take it from here, Rex. Rex? Rex? Well, we seem to be having some technical difficulties.
Thomas. I'm here at the scene in the Santa Fe National Park. We seem to be getting some reports of video game reviewers. There seems to be a surge of them reviewing obscure MS-DOS games. And basically the police are trying to figure out what is the cause of this. Are they trying to just get clout, or are they doing it to promote the games? Let's find out at the scene. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Wright of the Santa Fe Police Department. I am a detective that wants to bring all that is right into this great city. Now, we have our case file here. We're going to speak to some game reviewers soon to figure out what their motives are to review these types of obscure games. It seems, however, we are only able to find one of them so far. His name is Pretentious Hipster. Hopefully he'll give us a lead, or a confession. Time for us to head right to him. So, tell me about yourself, Mr. Pretentious Hipster. Well, I'm basically a YouTube video game reviewer of about 825 subscribers or so. This is a low-paying job, or in fact, no pay at all, but it's a fun avenue, honestly. Of course, gotta play my intro now.
Who's that pointing and clicking his way to internet fame? It might be a little too cool for your mainstream kind of games, but if you like retro consoles and obscure PC stuff, then you might just be hip enough for this pretentious hipster.
Well, that was pointless. Anyways, do you work as well? Yes, I do have a paying job on top of this. So what can you tell us about this game reviewing thing? It's basically a type of job where you kind of provide your own objective or subjective opinion based off of a game. And from there, people decide whether or not they would like to play that game. Why obscure games? I basically wanted to stand out in two ways. The first one was not to be drowned out of all the games that everyone covers, so I want to go to the deeper cuts, but well, at least it would be fun videos. On top of that, I want to go back to the 2010s, or at least the style of video game reviews at the time with more skits and funny gags and stuff like that, or even conceptual reviews like this video game review that we're doing right now. What are you talking about? We are in a video game review right now? Yep, we're in a video game review as we speak. Okay, weirdo. Can you give us an example of an obscure game? Sure. There is one called The Santa Fe Mysteries, The Elk Moon Murder. Interesting. Please give us more details. Well, it is a first-person FMV game created by Activision, who are known for creating quite a few of them, like Spycraft, which I also had a blast playing. It is one of the later MS-DOS releases, with a port for also Windows and Mac. It was a weird time with Activision. They were a powerhouse during the 80s, and even arguably during this era. In fact, Electronic Arts was as well. I guess you can say that this is a case of how far the mighty have fallen. And can you tell us what this game is about? It opens with a gunshot, and then it catches up to you with what happened, and the inevitable trope of a news report doing it, with the FMV trope of bad acting and interlacing.
As word of their death spreads, friends and fans of Anna Elk Moon, one of the Southwest's most celebrated potters, are gathering here outside of her home in Santa Vera to pay their respects. Widely acknowledged as the foremost practitioner of the popular Santa Vera pottery style, Elk Moon was found dead early this morning in her studio by her husband Jack Gordon, a professor at the university. Police are releasing few details, but it is believed the subject suffered fatal gunshot wounds. No suspects have been identified as of yet. This is Teresa Chavez for KITT Channel 6 News.
Well, I wasn't able to understand that. Me neither. But let's face it, there's an awesome guitar riff after that. Basically, Anna Elk Moon ends up getting murdered, who is a Native American artist who also focused on doing restorations of artifacts. She ends up murdered in her own place out of nowhere. Fortunately, Police Chief Weber catches it up with you. You and your partner Night Sky have 5 days to solve the murder before the big boys come in, do an arrest themselves, and both of you get in trouble. I'm guessing that because this is a mystery plot, you can't give too much information about this? Well, I mean, yeah, the whole point of the game is to solve the mystery in time, so I don't want to leave most of it as a surprise. What can you do to solve this murder? It's the, basic detective stuff. Obviously, the first thing you gotta do, and they literally tell you to do so, is to go to the scene of the crime. You can look at every piece of evidence that comes up in the form of hotspots, and you have multiple options. Send it to forensics, take a photograph, and write notes about it. Each of these actions takes up 15 minutes of the in-game time. I might as well give it to you straight and say some advice. Don't take photographs. They're pointless and a waste of 15 precious minutes each. Of course, most of it comes down to the questioning of the people in the town. For example, obviously you will start off with the husband, right? It has this cool UI of always showing the relevant building, day, and time left, and it shows the FMV when the question is answered, of you being able to choose which question to ask. This, for some reason, also uses up 15 minutes per question, regardless of how long the answer is. If you want another hint, make sure you do some of that stuff at the end of the day. You will work overtime as you won't let the day end until the questioning is over. Hell, they even got the trope of you doing the research yourself by going through the dusty old library, like finding old newspapers for example. How is the overall quality of it? It's got the usual FMV stuff of the mid-90s, but it has the rare case that the acting is more subtle and feels just realistic. It's always engaging to watch it. The technical quality isn't too bad either, as the interlacing lines aren't the biggest, thanks to its clever UI of having a smaller screen but not needing it to look awkward. How are the characters in this? It's the obvious types with these sorts of murder mysteries. There's the husband that clearly has something to hide and is giving names that could or could not be scapegoats. There's the curator of artifacts, who might have been against what she was doing. There's the abusive ex-husband, and the greedy small business owner. After interviewing someone, you can do stuff like replaying interviews and seeing notes. You can then list their status such as an informant or a suspect, their relationship to the victim, and any possible motive. It's a good way to help you keep things organized. It must be stressful to solve all of this in 5 days. Oh god, don't get me started. Chief Weber even pressures you to finish it within the morning of the second day.
I just got another call from the governor's office. He says his constituents are bombarding him. Now, I told him you two were getting very close. And you sure as hell better be.
If you fail, then you either gotta reload a save or start all over. I also assume that this has your share of twists and turns. For sure. You've got plenty of leads that come in as the time goes on, and when the forensic reports come back, you've got new questions to ask the informants and or suspects. For example, finding out that a van was involved and that only 2 people owned that model. Or, the broken glass in the crime scene was the husband's and was used for liquor. It's a good way to keep you from guessing. The big twist came on the 3rd day, for example, of the arrest of someone, which may or may have not been a plant. Is there anything peaceful about this game? I guess there is the Mongoose Tavern, which the screenshot is something. I'm pretty sure no one there wanted their photo taken. I'll kind of leave it as a surprise of what happens in the ending, but they definitely play as much hard rock music as possible. Is that seriously it? Well, there is the big twist in the review itself. There are 2 games. And you didn't bother to tell us that? Why shouldn't we arrest you right now? I wanted to leave it as a surprise for you, honestly. In fact, showing the game footage, I even snuck in a bit of the second part there. I guess we could talk about the second part then. Once again, the setup with the TV, with the bad audio, and the meetup with Weber is exactly the same. Basically, this deals with more of a kidnapping, but you still got plenty of evidence that goes into this. It's a nice change of pace from Elk Moon 2 to not make it as boring. As it deals with the kidnapping, you have people that have motives, some maybe even close to her. Are there any substantial differences between the two in terms of gameplay? It's mostly just quality of life improvements. It's easier to list people as suspects and informants, for example, as you don't have to list connections, and they change the form required to choose a person you arrest, in a more difficult way. However, they do have one thing that is quite the flaw. At the end of every interview in the previous game, you can hear a comment from Night Sky, and he says something that's usually funny about the person being interviewed.
Bet she'd love to come in for a lineup, just for the thrill of it. Probably ask for the handcuffs, too.
That was removed in the sequel, though. The twist that comes in halfway through, though, you can't get a bigger twist than that. They really upped the ante. Other than that, there's nothing really. Can't even talk more than a paragraph or so about it. I mean, they even use the same map. It feels more like the second mission of the first part rather than anything. But with how many discs were needed, it probably makes sense to release them separately. Well, this was more than helpful. Any final words before I leave? You could pretty much beat both of them in just a few hours, but still I would highly recommend them. They're acted well, they got some great puzzles to it, yet still making it accessible, and man, all that 90s hard rock, it was just a blast to go through. Actually, before I go, you say you look for hidden gems, right? Yeah. Well then, perhaps you'd like to explain these clips?
You can make me do the duck walk!
This is you doing the Zelda Games, right? An upcoming video? And that was supposed to come out this summer. Are you even close to finishing it? No, what? No, that's not... Yeah, fine. It's gonna take ages. I am making some decent progress with the scripts and editing. The hard part's almost done, but... there's still so much progress to do. Hell, even my Atlantis one is still gonna take ages, but at least that is a more obscure game. You shouldn't set such high expectations for yourself. Have a good day. This guy is a terrible reviewer. It seems that these game reviewers review these obscure games for less competition, and that it feels good to find that hidden gem and to help spread its word. I guess we can rest this case.